not had confetti yet. That's really kind of cool. So we're here to talk about mindfulness, right? Okay, let's try that again. So cool. Okay, we're here to talk about mindfulness, right? Yes! I have a huge problem with mindfulness. Yikes, I know. Probably not what you expected to come flying out of my mouth tonight, but I told myself that if I made it to this stage to have this conversation, that I was going to stand in my truth. So here we are. Mindfulness today is touted as a solution to something that I feel really strongly about in the personal development field. And I love that personal development field. I work in it. But just like any field, it has its issues and problems. And one of the problems that I see mostly, along with the people that I work with and in myself, is that mindfulness treats us like we're a big freaking problem for ourselves, right? It reveals to the practitioner that we somehow need to be fixed or solved. And I'm not so sure that's really that helpful. I mean, it's kind of a contradiction when you think about it. And I know that you know what I'm talking about because you've seen all of those things come up in your news feeds on Facebook, right? Or maybe it's on the shelves of your bookcase at home. You know what I'm talking about. Positive thinking, relieve your stress with meditation, align your mind, train your brain, and so on and so on. Over the past several decades, as we become more interested about what people think about us, don't lie, and as we've gone through those, after those big dreams, those big visions, and those big jobs, and the more that we become stressed and depressed and just wondering what we're doing, waiting in the wings of just about every guru stage, and on maybe those bookshelves, pages of those books, was mindfulness. Now, I love mindfulness. I really do. I believe in it. But I think mindfulness as a goal just doesn't work. We've taken a really simple practice, and we run it through all the appropriate marketing mills, right? Until now it's so complex and it's so gangly, and quite frankly, we don't recognize it, and we don't even know if it's working. An Oxford study recently stated that if you have a mindfulness practice and you've suffered from depression, you can help yourself from relapsing up to 44%. Now, that's a statistic to get behind, right? That's hard to argue with. And I believe in it. I really do. I mean, I'm the girl that has about 18 journals scattered throughout her house, my mindfulness practice du jour. But I gotta be totally honest with you here. For all those times that I thought I was writing all of these beautiful manifestations of brilliance, they kind of read more like bullshit. Yeah? That was me. Just a girl trying to convince herself that she can have it all by writing that shit down in a journal. I think that we just have to be maybe a little careful about what mindfulness is and what it isn't. Because it can do all kinds of things for us, right? It can help us reveal all kinds of limiting beliefs, abundance blocks, all the tanglements that we get with our ego, but I think it can be very dangerous. Come with me for a second. So let's pretend that this is John. John is here. And John has spent the last 5 decades building his identity, just going about his life, doing what he is, just reacting as things come in and out. And then John sees this really shiny thing over here called mindfulness. I want to do that. And he starts his mindfulness practice, and he starts unraveling his whole identity and doesn't know who he is. Talk about an identity crisis. Mindfulness today is sold as a solution when really it's just relieving our symptoms. And yes, it can be good for the betterment of our life, but I have seen it cause existential panic in not just the people I work with, but even myself. In fact, on my way to enlightenment and being awake, I was told to expect to have obstacles. I found them. And all I can hear is the great Marty Lefko in my ear telling me, if you expect obstacles, you'll surely find them. And I love it when somebody tells me that what they love about themselves is that they know how to overcome obstacles and they can handle problems. Well, by definition, wouldn't you need a lot of problems and obstacles in your life to feel self-worth? Manifestation. Just let that one sink in for a moment. Mindfulness is there to help us dissolve inside of us what is unhelpful. And then it sends you off with a good luck, kid, paralysis of sorts. And I know you know what I'm talking about, because all those books that you love on your bookshelf, and you're like, I have no idea how to use these in my life. Been there? I have. So unless you are actually replacing what you have dissolved within you with something that's better, you're going to end up, I don't know, curled up on the couch, maybe crying in a ball, like a kid without cake. Not that I know anything about that. Sometimes mindfulness is just not the right tool. It's like me asking you to measure the volume of water with a yardstick. I mean, okay, maybe it can be done, but we all know that there are better tools, right? I am a long-distance mother, and that comes with its challenges, as you might understand right out of the gate. Long story, I've been doing that for about 7 years, and I remember the day that I had to figure out whether or not I wanted to stay there in that pain and suffering, or if I needed to do something else, which I didn't know what that was, but this didn't feel good, so I knew this had to change. And I remembered I tried to think my way out of that. I tried to use positive thinking to get me out of that cycle of pain and suffering, and you know what it got me? A whole lot more pain. And it wasn't until I took a step over here into movement, designed a life around the situation and the circumstances that the world had given me, and just made it work. It helped relieve my pain. And isn't that what meditations and mindfulness actually do? It reveals our pain and suffering. And I'm here to suggest that maybe we don't just get rid of it because we don't like pain. We don't want to do that, right? We don't want to just get rid of it all the time. We want to actually maybe use it, because maybe within that pain is your purpose. I am going to wrap up with a little bit of a personal story as to why mindfulness has been problematic in my life. And for those of you who know me, know that I share everything, but I've not shared this, so this should be fun for all of us. So we know that mindfulness is there to help us become present, to detach from the world around us for protection of the toxicity types things that come in and out of our life, right? But for any of you that might be a little more like me, maybe you've been labeled detached or aloof or super independent. Mindfulness practices actually exacerbated this problem for me. And it is a problem. And I know it doesn't seem that way, right? Because we value independence in this country especially. But I gotta tell you, I didn't always used to be that person. In fact, if you ask my friends in high school, they would have labeled me as the social butterfly. And I know that identity really well, because they're like a nice pair of pants. I can put those suckers on, button them up, and how do they look? I'm wearing them tonight. It would be really reckless of me to stand up here and tell you that mindfulness changed my life without also connecting the dots and telling you that it completely shifted my personality. This is referred to in the Buddhist circles as the dark night or Enlightenment's evil twin. And it's incredibly isolating. And for everything that mindfulness have given me, like the philosophy classes from my classes out in UNR in Reno, it's also a bit of torture. Because I'm not stimulated by just everyday conversation anymore. I don't want to talk about the weather. I don't want to talk about sports. I don't want to talk about cat memes. Don't get mad. And I know that comes off as Enlightenment snobbery, and you can think that and label me that if you want. I just don't care. But what I will tell you is this is real, it's isolating, and unless you have the tools to get out of that and the identity to get out of that, you will be suffering in a different way. Mindfulness isn't here to change the problem of you any more than it's here to change the problem of me. So maybe we can look at mindfulness for just a moment through a different lens, and maybe we can adjust that lens just a little bit and realize that maybe we're not a bunch of problems. Because I'm looking out around this whole audience out here, and I don't see a single one of you that needs to be solved. And if you remember nothing more from me tonight, please know that you are not a problem. You just aren't, and you never were. Thank you.